Hi there, welcome to another edition of 411 Pop Culture, where real people talk about really everything. I'm your host, Justin Steele, and with me today is my guest, Danielle Almendra.
Hi.
Hi. We just finished watching the movie Jaws because we recently finished watching The Meg. So we decided, after watching The Meg, it was time to go back to just a little bit more old school classic videos. Now, Jaws is one of Danielle's favorite all-time movies. We'll be discussing Jaws mixed with The Meg. So thank you for joining me, Danielle.
You're welcome.
So starting off with Jaws, Danielle has varying tastes. She usually likes a little bit more of a highbrow humor, but one thing that's strange about her, the cult stuff she loves. She does love cult classic movies, and killer animal movies are something that she becomes quite obsessed with. So what is it, Danielle? What is it about these movies that grabs your attention?
I think it's just like because it's realistic. Like you can run into animals and stuff like that in the wild. To me, that's realistic.
And it'd be scary.
Yes. And you know what? About animals, it's like you don't know what they're gonna do. You know,
Even like having a
cats, dogs,
pet, yeah,
anything. Like they're wild animals. Like I was just watching something last night with chimpanzees, and I'm like, they're so human-like. They have many human characteristics, but I'm like, they're still wild animals. Like they can attack you. And that's what makes it so exhilarating and thrilling. That's why I love watching those movies.
And what about sharks in general? Because I feel like you're an avid watcher of Shark Week. You
Yes.
love all. The Meg, you love it.
I love sharks. I always have been fascinated with them. I don't know why. Never want to get in the water with them.
Is it, do you think, a little bit, though, the mystery of the sea, or,
Absolutely.
The unknown, the dark recesses underwater, thousands of feet?
Well, it's so mysterious. We have not even begun to discover what is under the ocean.
Which is kind of interesting because, that is a large plot point in the Meg, was how the characters had to go down into the bottom of the Pacific to, I believe it's called the Marianas Trench, which is allegedly like the lowest point that you can go at the bottom of the ocean. And they had to go down there, and it is the fear of the unknown. We don't know what is at the bottom of the ocean. Even what we do know, we don't know.
Right. Well, that was the whole point. They wanted to go to see if there was another bottom layer under the ocean, and they were able to get down in there and basically release the Meg, which, being an avid, Shark Week watcher and stuff like that, they've actually debunked all that stuff, which makes the Meg, while people who don't know science might think it's a big thriller and everything like that, and like, oh, maybe that's possible, it really has been debunked that the Megalodon could not exist. So the thrill of watching the Meg is just to see something like how it could have been back in the day, or what some prehistoric animal would be like now, whereas Jaws, to me, is realistic. I mean, it scared people. It still scares people from going in the ocean and stuff like that, and that's what makes it so thrilling, because it's so real. And if you look at the difference between the two of them, you've got the realistic great white shark, and then you've got the Meg, but you never really see Jaws too much. And people were all more scared of that than seeing this gigantic megalodon shark, which is ginormous, in the movie. You're like, that's not possible.
Well, and you're saying they don't see it very much in the movie. You mean like in the movie itself, how they don't see it very much, which also, was a fluke, because they really were having, Steven Spielberg and his crew were having trouble with the mechanical shark, so thus they kind of used it less than they intended, but that ups the fear level, which is one of the things that makes the original Jaws so successful, and lots of horror movies. I don't think it's a hard and fast rule that you can't show the monster and it's automatically going to be not scary, but one of the things that was so effective with Jaws was that they rarely did show the shark until the end. You'd get the hint, the POV shots, the da-da-da-da-da-da. And with the Meg, I feel like you did see the shark quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, and obviously that's today's level of CGI, what they can accomplish, but it does. But the difference is that, I think Jaws is a cult classic. It's got some fun humor to it, especially through the Richard Dreyfuss character.
Oh, absolutely. He's hilarious.
Right, he really is funny. But then the Meg, though, was intended to be, it's a terrible movie that's supposed to be fun, and that's what makes it a good movie. It's never there's not one single Oscar-worthy performance in that movie.
No.
But it's fun. It is a fun movie. It's a summer blockbuster. Whereas Jaws, though, is a more sincere effort, a more quality film, and a lot of that is because of the technique of not always seeing the shark, not always knowing, what's coming at you.
Well, and then there's another difference too. So you're watching Jaws, and there was a lot of people that were nameless. I mean, even today, some of those people don't know what those actors' names are. You get a movie like The Meg, which, yeah, it's not going to be, in the Oscars or anything like that, but they've got some B and C list players on there, enough to get people into the theater and say, oh, this might really, have some quality to it.
Well, Rainn Wilson for me was one from The Office. Rainn Wilson.
Oh, absolutely.
That when I saw he was in it, I'm like, all right, I'm definitely gonna go see this then. And I know that's one of your favorite characters from The Office.
Yes, and he was kind of like the Richard Dreyfuss almost, with the sarcasm and the.
Sure.
Well, haven't you ever seen Shark Week? And then you got Richard Dreyfuss, who is hilarious in John. I mean, watching it again with you, it was like seeing this whole other comical element. Now that, we're closer to that age and stuff like that, just listening to his reactions to Quint, hilarious.
Even just making silly faces where
yes,
he's
yes,
it's funny. It's funny.
Yeah.
All right, so for those of you who don't know, the basic plot line of Jaws opens with a young girl, Chrissy, who makes eye contact with a young man at a bonfire late one evening, and she signals for him and her to go swimming, and as they run, they're stripping off their clothes, running to the beach. She jumps in, and her companion is a little bit drunk and struggling to get in the water, so she's just lightly skinny dipping by herself as the underwater POV shot starts to drift up towards her, and she is attacked, and she is the first attack from Jaws. All right. The plot line is thrust forward by Chrissy's demise, leading to the Chief Brody, Roy Scheider, newly appointed. He is to Amity Island, and he takes the advice of experts, but then because of the amount of money that will be lost in the summer season, decides to listen when they change their mind from a shark attack to, what was it, a random attack or boating accident.
A boating accident.
They said a boating accident. Even though he's not entirely sure, he is new, he decides these are the experts, so he does end up listening to them, and obviously it ends up turning out to be a shark attack. So the rest of the film is played along as he struggles with trying to convince them this is really happening. He has an expert come in, played by Richard Dreyfuss. He enlists the help of a local fisherman, played by
Robert Shaw.
Together this unlikely trio ends up in the waters where they try to take on Jaws.
Well, let's backtrack for a second. Let's talk about Chrissy Watkins. Okay. My thought watching this time around, she's running, and you're thinking, oh, young, having fun, they're drunk, they're on the beach, and I'm thinking this woman is disrobing as they're running, mind you. It's dusk, so it's pretty much dark. How is this woman getting her clothes back on? How is she's throwing shoes off, throwing her turtleneck on, and then she's going to get naked and jump in the ocean? That, to me, just, I don't know, watching it this time around, I just, that's what I was thinking. Instead of thinking, oh my gosh, she's going to be eaten by the shark, I'm thinking, how's she going to get her clothes back?
Well,
that is what I'm thinking.
I suppose it could be the adult perspective that we have now watching this, as opposed to the, being a carefree youth where the main concern is not what you're going to do with your clothes. It's what's going to happen without your clothes in the water, having fun. But excellent point. Yeah. Now, one thing we noticed while watching the film, it is beautifully shot, some amazing visuals, and like we said, they utilize the shark in a minimal capacity because of problematic issues from a technological standpoint, which was actually an effective device because it made everything a little bit more scary. But one thing we noticed when watching it is the development between what happened with Chief Brody versus like the mayor and the townsfolk, where even though they lost a girl and then another boy to a shark attack, they essentially wanted to still keep things open because they were so worried about the economical repercussions.
Yeah.
And, I
had a hard time with that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in that climate now. It's like, what's better for the economy or what's better for, humanity? people are dying, and the chief is just basically talking and no one wants to listen to him. And then the mayor turns around and then he's all upset later. No, you were wrong, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're the one who wanted him to keep the beaches open, you know?
I think that does translate to what you said today, where it's like this climate of people, what is best for humanity? Is it having economical stability or is it human rights? And I believe that there are possible ways to have both. Maybe if we don't focus so much on getting, yes, obviously having a stable economy is important, but maybe it could develop one into the other if we fix human rights first. Make sure everybody's treated a little equally. Worry about what's happening directly to humans and the environment and the earth in general. Maybe then that could lead to a solution for economic stability.
Might, but you know what? So they kept the beaches open. Everybody comes to the island. They've got shark mouths for sale. And, people wanted to come. They knew that there was a shark attack. And everyone's standing on the beach. And nobody wants to go in the water. But they want to see the shark. And if they would have just closed the beaches, people would have still came to see the shark. They probably would have made more money.
Well, exactly.
And people would have been saved.
Exactly. So if they had worried first about human rights, worrying about what was going to happen to the humans, the environment, etc., it could have led to an even bigger margin of profit for the summer tourists to come in.
Absolutely.
When people are told they can't do something, that's when they want to come.
Absolutely.
Or, we do look at the popularity of Shark Week or other killer animal movies, etc.
Mm-hmm.
People want to see. It's that looking at an accident, you can't help but stare at it and not turn away.
Yeah, and people will do that.
It could have been utilized, poor Chrissy, and unfortunate for the young boy that died, it could have made more money to be like, oh, well, come, you come see the killer shark, come see, the dangers unfold, people are attracted to that. Now, just to get another perspective, Gina, what did you think about Jaws?
It was good.
One of the scarier moments for me in Jaws is when they realize that, well, the kids are playing the prank of they have a fake shark kind of fin on their head that they're like scaring everybody. And everybody gets out of the water, and for us Cleveland fans, that reminds me of something that happened at Jogga Lake when I was growing up, when I was probably about 13 years old.
Well, Jogga Lake's an amusement park.
It was an amusement park that's been closed down. Everybody, it was a big heart of the general Northeast Ohio area.
And it could not compete with Cedar Point.
It couldn't compete, even though it was great and fun. It was cheaper, same feelings, but it just, Cedar Point had the bigger rides. But one ride that Jogga Lake had was called the Wave, and it basically, you were in this elongated pool tank, almost maybe the size of a football field, and every 15-20 minutes or so this huge wave would come and it would throw everybody across. And the one time I was in it, I definitely was swimming, and I grew up having tubes in my ears, so it was the first summer where I really didn't have any, so I could go back underwater again. And I was excited going in there, and the wave came, and it sure did flip me over, and I was underwater, and a really big, huge lady, I mean, she was huge, and she fell right on top of me and pinned me down in the water, and it was one of the scariest moments of my life. So when watching Jaws and that scene happens, everybody's taking off, running out of the water, people are tripping over each other. It definitely brought up a few traumatic memories for me. Alright, so Danielle, overall though, would you recommend Jaws still to current audiences? Do you believe that it holds up?
Yeah, but I just don't think people are going to appreciate it.
In what way?
Well, because if you look at the Meg, it's very action-packed. The shark's pretty much in the whole film. There isn't really any element of surprise, I think, nowadays. Even myself, I'm waiting for the action. And I know as I was watching Jaws, I was waiting for those parts. And I like that anticipation, but I was used to it from watching films in the past. Whereas I think people nowadays, or our younger generations, are used to just go, 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 action, action, action. And I don't know if they would have the patience. I think maybe they fall asleep halfway through. Because I know all my favorite parts are at the end.
Yeah. I think that is kind of a debate now on movies. Current audiences do expect, especially with something like a blockbuster, they want bam, bam, bam.
Mm-hmm.
But, I do think that I will always take quality over quantity. Sometimes, in most of the movies I enjoy, it is a slow beginning because you're setting up character development.
Yep.
With the Meg, I feel like there were so many characters, even the ones I recognized, right off the bat. It was kind of like, who am I following? Why? Is there a chance to really develop anything with these characters? It was still exciting and fun, But
talk about the beginning sequence, because I like to talk of the Meg. I think you really didn't even know what was happening almost at first. Where sometimes movies are setting you up, they're like down in the trenches. He's doing a deep sea rescue. That's Jason Statham's job in the movie. And he's down there, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? You kind of really don't even understand what's going on, and I think it was a poor setup, honestly. I think it definitely needed to be set up, because it kind of tells you, like, oh, he saw the Meg down there, he was right, all this stuff. Later on in the movie, that kind of comes out. But at the beginning, I was kind of just like, well, what's he doing? And why are these people mad at him? And it was just really weird.
And speaking of character development, you know, there were certain characters that, you know, even with having them be in the whole film, their development was still questionable. You know, you had a character played by Lee Bingbing and Jason Statham, where, you know, they had a sort of romance developing throughout the film, but right after she lost her father, you know, virtually the next scene, she is, like, setting up a seductive, like, candles everywhere, you know, she's clearly had this attraction to him from the beginning when he's, like, in a towel just walking through.
Well, who wouldn't? I mean,
and, you know, sorry. It's kind
Can
of
you
like...
cut that part out?
It's, no, I'm leaving it in. And, anyway, though, like, you know, you're kind of like, wait, didn't your father just die? And you've got all this emotional stress, but yes, it's definitely time to get it on.
Well, you were very bothered about the guy taking the snapshots.
I was
shark.
very bothered about that.
You know, his friends just died. The guy's standing there. They think they caught the shark. Spoiler. And he's sitting there, and he's like, "Oh, get a picture of me," you know, blah, blah, blah. And then Justin's like, "His friend just died."
Yeah, let me set it up. Literally, they had this total bromance. They're trapped at the bottom of the ocean. The one sacrifices himself in order for the other one to get away, and the one guy's like, "This shark took my friend's life. How could you make jokes about it? How could you talk about it?" And then literally, like 4 scenes later, they thought they caught the shark. He's got his head in his mouth, and he's like, "Take a snapshot." Da da da. And I'm like, "Wait a minute. Weren't you just upset that everybody was doing
bothered by that.
I was very bothered by that.
He was very vocal in the movie theater, by the way.
It was silly. All right, now talking about some other things in our pop culture life. What are so you enjoy Jaws is one of your favorite movies. I know Lake Placid is also one of your favorite movies. What do you enjoy about that so much?
The humor, 100%. That movie is
it's really
all humor.
Funny, yeah.
It's just
and it's exciting.
And
too,
I
though.
love sarcastic humor. And that movie is pure sarcasm. Every character's sarcastic. It's just, it's hilarious.
Well, and I think it's one of the first times where we really got the Betty White persona that we have now, where she's playing sort of this grandmotherly sweet lady that kind of has a foul mouth, that kind of throws it in at the last second. And I feel like that was one of the first post Golden Girls clips where we really got, as at least for our generation, you know, the Betty White of today. It was an exciting movie. It was well done.
Oh yeah, and there was
Bridget
definitely
Fonda
some jumping parts in there. The part where the crocodile comes out and grabs the grizzly bear is the best scene. It's in the middle of the movie, but there's still other things later on that are very intense. That's what I definitely enjoy about those type of movies. I love country music. There's dancing. There's country dancing in it. The plot line, you know, she wants to ride the bull. He doesn't want her to ride the bull. Then she turns out to be with this guy who's even worse than Jon Tureltaub was. I don't know, it's just, watching it now, you kind of think Jon Tureltaub's kind of a
jerk.
Yeah,
he is kind of a jerk in it. I mean, you know, it's a climate of the time sort of situation, but yeah, you know, he's only a step above
He's like telling her she can't ride the bull.
Yeah.
I'd do the same thing she did.
Well, because he was supposed to be, you know, a rural cowboy that became an urban cowboy. Yeah. And, you know, he definitely is of that young, you know, he's in his early 20s, the bar scene, you know, going out getting drunk every night, riding this bull, proving that he's the man. And
himself and then can't work.
Yep, and then Deborah Winger has to, you know, she decides, you know, she's spunky and she wants to have fun too. She doesn't see why she can't be one of the guys and jump up there, especially when she, you know, she's trying to be a good wife. She, you know, she's young too, you know, and making mistakes. But, you know, it is, though, for the most part, even though there's definitely a lot of sexist undertones, I will say that, like, Deborah Winger and Jon Travolta's chemistry together as Sissy and Bud, when they get into their fights, like one of our favorite
about
scenes.
the McDonald's?
Fine, forget it.
Fine, forget it. Like you do.
That's an inside joke. Danielle's making fun of me right now.
Yeah.
My southern accent isn't always up to par. But, you know,
the part where he comes home and, you know...
I got a thumb, I got a middle finger.
We can really quote the whole movie.
Yeah.
When they're fighting, because his aunt comes over and makes the tuna salad and they're eating it, and he's like, you know, what were you planning on making me for dinner? And she was like, I thought we'd go to McDonald's. And he's like,
McDonald's again?
Yeah, good one. And it's like, she's like, well, I work too. And she's got a point. And that's kind of climate we're in nowadays, where, you know, women do work and they're yet still expected to do all that housework and cooking and cleaning. And, you know, good for the woman today. And she does a lot.
Yeah, she does. And what are some concerts that you've gone to lately, and what are some upcoming concerts that you have in the future?
Well, we just went and saw Shania Twain.
We did. It was amazing.
I've been waiting 20 years to see her. It was amazing.
And all her new stuff is great and wonderful. I personally would have loved to have seen some of her The Woman in Me album, which I think is her best, even though Come On Over is her most successful. But all of her new stuff's great and wonderful, and of course that's what she played. But
yeah. And then I get to go see Fleetwood Mac in October.
That's going to be exciting.
Really excited about that one. And we just found out Cher's coming to town in February,
Singing all
and
of
I
her
will
ABBA.
be there.
I'm really excited that it's going to probably be all ABBA based, and I'm definitely down to go see that concert. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Tickets went on sale today. I've already been scoping them out.
And do you have any other thoughts?
I love Jewel.
All right, and in terms of other things in culture, Danielle, what are some of your favorite all-time books? What are some books that you love?
Well, definitely Flowers in the Attic.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
That's what got us started being friends 20
true.
years
We've
ago
been friends
this
for
year,
20
by the way.
years.
Yeah,
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
But yeah, that's how we bonded. We were both like, I think I saw Danielle walking with a V.C. Andrews book, and I was like, hey, have you ever read Flowers in the Attic? And we bonded, and 20 years later.
My favorite characters, Kathy and Chris.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let brother sister love live forever. But no, it's definitely it's a great series.
It taints the books. But that's not really what it is.
No, of course not. Of
you
course
know,
not.
but
Anybody
people
reading
think
the books know that.
You know, people that have heard of Flowers in the Attic, they automatically go to that. You know, the relationship. But when you read the horror that these children went through, it's just very traumatic.
Well, and it's been adapted several times, and you know, we were also big fans of the 1987 version. And, you know, the Lifetime remake, I thought they did a fine job. Definitely could have been better. But they definitely focused on the brother-sister incest angle. And, in fact, maybe to a degree that was too much. It's one thing when you're reading the books. Yeah. But when you see it kind of happening in front of your TV, you are kind of like, ooh, uncomfortable. But, you know, I thought they did a nice job with the series overall.
Line from the movie?
Damn you to hell, Corinne Foxworth, if you don't take Corey to a hospital right now.
Yes. And then, eat the cookie!
Eat the All right, and Danielle, thanks for joining me today. It was fun doing this.
Thanks for having me.
I always like to end on what can we do a little bit better for the world, you think, right now as humankind? You know, relating it back to Jaws.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we talked about the mayor and how his concerns were more from an economic standpoint as opposed to what would be best for the residents. Even though, you know, I think sometimes it's more about perspective, you know, having different perspectives. They could have made even more money and not lost as many lives, utilizing the situation from a different marketing standpoint. And, you know, I think what we can do better is try to see other people's perspectives, because it could still get you what you want in the end. It's not always the obvious answer.
Well, if you look at the mayor's point of view, he really did genuinely care about that town.
Absolutely.
He really didn't want people, he even said it in the movie, he doesn't want his people to be on welfare through the entire winter. He really thought he was doing what was right, but unfortunately sometimes, you know, doing what's right gets people killed.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yes, and, you know, 4 people died, at least that I can remember. But I think we need to be kind and we need to be humble. We can't think we're better than anybody else. We don't know what anybody's going through. What someone's going through to the left side of us, we could be going through in a couple years or a couple months or tomorrow. You know, and it's like humanity is precious. We can't waste it. We just can't waste it. We have to look at the bigger picture, for sure.
Thank you, Danielle.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you very much, and we'll be seeing you soon. This is 411 Pop Culture, real people talking about really everything. Good night. Underwater POV shot starts to drift up towards her, and she is attacked, and she is the first attack from Jaws, and in doing so leads the plot of the film to continue on, where Chief Brody, played by Roy Schneider, is...
Thanks, Justin.
Yes, so Chief Brody is played by... Oh, are you ready? Stop. I'm editing all this out, you jerk. I might do your laugh in there somewhere, but...
All right.
Okay, so the plot is led forward by Chrissy's demise, leading to newly appointed Amity Island's Chief of Police, Chief Brody, played by Roy Schneider. You gotta stop.
You know I am.
All right.
You gotta cut it short, though.
Right.
I'm sweating here.
All right. So,
I can at least stare at the camera for so long.
well, maybe look back at me.
I am.
Okay. All right. So,
just don't say his name.
I have to.
No, you don't.
I do. All right. The plot line is thrust forward by Chrissy's demise, leading to the Chief Brody, Roy Schneider.
It was good.